Hi, Tom Isaac here. So we're going to kind of keep moving on here with our tax return assignments. So we went through last and we did the Schedule A to figure out whether or not we're going to take an itemized deduction or the standard deduction. And we're down here. Now we've got to go back and finalize the Form 1040. So let's kind of keep moving on. So here I've got my Form 1040. We've used the information from Schedule 1. We've used the information from Schedule A. And we're going to finish up this front side. So these next two things, items of lines 13 and 14, are likely to be 0 for all of you. Excuse me. Line 14 there is add lines 12 and 13. So that's $13,850. We're using the standard deduction. And then I can come down here and I can finally get to subtract line 14 from line 11. That means I'm going to figure out my total taxable income. In this case, that's going to be $34,503.80. So this is the amount that I have to pay tax on. Now, we haven't figured out how much tax we owe yet, but this is how much we're going to have as our taxable income. So the next section on the second page of the Form 1040 is to figure out how much tax we owe. So I'm going to view that right here in line 16. Now, don't be tempted to jump right in and say, oh, well, I'm young, I don't have to pay tax. Well, no, you do. So we're going to do this from the tax forms. So it's why it says see instructions. If you also look at the instructions that I gave you, you'll notice that as we get down here, we're going to be going through and getting into the actual calculation of the tax. So when we get to line 16, calculate the tax, we have to use the tax tables. And we do this based upon our taxable income. So this is where you need to dive into these instructions. And so you'll notice in here, it actually shows you in the bookmarks that there's the tax tables. But the tax tables start right here on page 65. And you have to look at this and say, if line 15, the taxable income, is between this amount and this amount, this is how much tax you pay. So we can kind of shift through pretty quickly. We have $34,503 in tax. So I'm going through the tax tables. And you'll notice when I get to about here, $35,000. So 35,300, 35,400. There we go. 35,000. Excuse me. $34,503 means it's right here. How much tax do I owe? I owe $3,923 in tax. And this is in the column for I am single. So that's how I figure out how much tax I owe. Right there. I'll make that a little larger so you can see that. So because my income was between $34,500 and $34,550, there's my taxable amount. That's how much tax I owe the government for this year. $39.23. Go back to my Form 1040, and I'm going to put that right here in line 16, $39.23. That's the amount of tax I owe. Now, the rest of these, we're skipping Schedule 2. Add the 2 up then. So $39.23. Child tax credits. If you have children eligible for that, talk to your instructor and they can talk to you about what to do with that. But generally, that's going to be 0. Then Schedule 3, we're not going to use, so that's going to be 0. Add lines 19 and 20, that's 0. Subtract line 21 from line 18. We're still going to owe $3,923 in tax. Other taxes, we're not using Schedule 2, so we're just going to put a 0 in that, and then I add those 2 up, and I get my total tax. So that's what I owe as my tax. Then you have to figure out, well, how much have I already paid? So I can look at on my Form 10 W-2, I can figure out how much federal tax I've already paid. So if I go back and look at my federal tax in terms of how much I've already paid, I have in here $9,000. That was probably a pretty unreasonable number, but I'll go ahead and use that. And I'm going to take that federal income tax withheld, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. I have no other taxes withheld on my 1040s, no other forms. Add those all up, and I've got $9,000 in taxes I've already paid. So what this section up here, taxes, this is how much I have to pay. I've already paid $9,000. So it basically says is I've paid too much. I don't want to have, I have no carryovers from last year. So line 26 will be 0. You're not going to have anything in any of these other ones. If you think that they apply to you, go ahead and talk to your instructor. You're going to add this all up, 27 through there, that's going to be 0. And then I add it all up. My total payments are $9,000. So now this question comes in of who owes who money. In this case, if line 33, $9,000, is more than line 24, then you overpaid your taxes. And how much did you overpay your taxes? You overpaid your taxes by $5,077. So subtracting 9,000 minus 3923, that's going to give me 59. Sorry about that. No, I was right. $5,077. So that's going to come back to me. So that's going to be refunded to me. I want my money back. Go ahead and give me that back. Please don't fill out the thing about your checking account. I don't want to know what your account number is, and that you can stop right there. Now, let's say on the other hand, I'm just going to give you a slightly different example. If, on the other hand, in worksheet number 4, I had not had enough money withheld. So let's say my federal withholding wasn't 9,000, but let's just say it was 3,000. So if my federal withholding was 3,000, and then I look and I can see that here in my tax statement, federal income tax was 3,000. That would basically say I didn't have enough withheld. So let me just show you as another example. If this all comes down here to 3,000, then what happens is that I had not enough money withheld. I owe $3,923 in taxes. I've already paid 3,000, so I'm short. So the amount you owe, because line 33 is less than line 24, I owe that difference. I still owe the government $923. So you can see what the process is of your tax return is you figure out how much tax you should pay based upon all of the adjustments and deductions. And then you figure out how much you've already actually paid in this thing we call withholding. And then you have to sort of square up with the government. And that's what the tax return is. It's just sort of figuring out who owes who money. I hope this has kind of cleared up the tax return assignment. Don't forget to complete worksheet number 4. You do have to come back here in worksheet number 4 and finish this last little part. And that is down here. It says after you finish the tax return assignment. So in this case, the tax due, I had $923. I have to put that in there as the amount that I have as my tax due. And that will actually appear in here in tax due or refund on your summary worksheet. Hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please reach out to your instructor. This is challenging, so please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I would not suggest leaving this to the last minute. Spend some time working on this and doing a good job. Thank you very much. Appreciate your attention.